Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the King Island Ordinary Council meeting for the month of March 2024. For the record, today's date is Tuesday, the 19th of March 2024. I call the meeting to order and declare the meeting open at 4:02 p.m. by me. Usual housekeeping to start with, just a reminder, mobile phones please put on silent or turned off so that we're not interrupted throughout the course of the council meeting. Item 1, as always, is qualified advice. Pursuant to Section 65 of the Local Government Act of Tasmania, 1993, qualified advice has been received to fully prepare our agenda for this afternoon. Item 2, attendance and apologies. I welcome all councillors and staff in attendance. We have nil councillor apologies. We have 2 councillors currently on a leave of absence. So just to confirm our quorum numbers, we are currently 7 of 9 councillors, so we have a quorum and we are good to transact council business. Staff attendance, King Island staff are here as required. We'll just do a comms check. Malcolm, can you hear me loud and clear over?
Yes, I can hear.
We've got you, thank you. And is it Mick who's on there as well? Mick?
Yes, loud and clear, thanks mate.
Okay, can hear you loud and clear over, thank you. A belated welcome. Last month I missed, or it was remiss of me to miss welcoming Lisa Warren, our new Workplace Health and Safety Manager, to the council team. So Lisa, welcome, and great to have you working with us. Staff apologies. Helen, I believe, is absent tonight, and Dave Muir is absent tonight as well. Any others? Okay. Media attendance, proceedings are being recorded as per normal business. Public attendance, on behalf of King Island Council, I welcome all interested constituents that are here in the gallery this afternoon and those who will subsequently listen to the recording afterwards. Opening statement. Can everyone please stand for the opening statement? Councillors, to begin this meeting, I ask you to stand in silence to pray or reflect on our responsibilities to the people of King Island. We begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Thank you. Resume your seats. As Mayor and on behalf of all King Islanders, I just wanted to say that our thoughts and prayers go out to all of our farmers, ratepayers and property owners currently impacted by this rare summer drought we're experiencing. As far as we can ascertain, this is the driest summer on King Island since the 1960s. We've had negligible rain since last October. Even today we've been teased again with about 1 millimetre of passing rain showers. Destocking the island of cattle continues at pace with feed and other urgent logistics being brought in, which will remain our shipping priority until a new equilibrium is established and the situation stabilises. We as a council are working with local stakeholders, state and federal authorities to deal with this drought situation as it unfolds. The resolve of our great island is being tested, but make no mistake, we will show Tasmania and Australia that we pass this test. Item 3 is presentations. There are nil. Item 4 is public question time. If a constituent in our gallery wishes to ask a question without notice, I will allow 15 minutes maximum of question time. We do have one question. The chair recognises Brian Yu. Brian, if you'd like to go there and please sit at that end desk with the microphone. Thank you very much. All yours, sir.
Thank you. I'm back again. I was here 2 months ago on the same subject. My big concern is population on King Island and what this council and our community are doing to address the situation. It's been made quite clear that we would like to have 3,000 to 4,000 population. Without going over everything I said last time around there, we used to be 3,500 when I grew up here. So one of the solutions was about the planning zones that's currently going through at the moment, which I feel is a really great opportunity to address this situation. Now, as I did last time, I spoke to 3 individuals in the council here. I spoke to Marcus, I spoke to the planning officer, I spoke to the stand-in general manager, and then came here and addressed the council in the same situation. I got a little. We put a submission in for the Planning Act. I got a little 2-line. Thank you very much. I sent the submission to Marcus, and thank you, Marcus. On the 22nd, he shared it with every councillor and gave me a thank you very much for that, and I addressed the council on the 23rd of January. I haven't heard one thing from anybody at all. I invited anybody with interest at any time to contact myself or Debbie. We have 2 properties, and this is not about me, this is about the situation about the planning zone as an example, to come and see us, contact us, and we'll give you an example of what we're talking about. That if you're going to go through the planning zone, you can take an example from the public, and there'll be many examples, but unfortunately, not one. Which disappoints me, because most of our submission was talking about bringing the community on board, right? It's not about just council, it's about community issue. And I feel like that I'm not being brought on as a ratepayer and a community member. And I think there's more than just me feeling this way. So it's something that needs to be sort of talked about and addressed maybe. I've got Kim George coming and addressed a month after me, and Robert, you replied a few days ago. There's just a couple of little instances in your response that really caught my eye, and it talks about putting submissions in for different zoning and land. And one of the things that it says is, unfortunately, more recently, predictions for the decline, at best, maintenance of our current population actually makes it hard for us to put an example forward, which is fair enough, but an example to counteract that, we've just bought a kitchen and it's made in Phillip Island, and the kitchen guy loves King Island, and he's bought an acreage up the back of Folkes Bay. I said, how much land did you want to buy? He said, I just wanted an acre. He said, I just want an acre to put a shed and a house on. I said, how much you got? 140 acres. Now, there are many examples I talk to that people don't want 40 acres, 20 acres, 10 acres, least of all 140 acres. So there's an argument about smaller allotments, which brings us back to the population growth. The last paragraph in Kim's reply goes back to 218. The council wanted to look at undertake investigations in coastal living. And nothing's happened, and it's going to go through to the resources. Well, when it goes through to the next stage, I think then we're going to look at it. That's my understanding of the way I read it. To me, this is like letting the horse bolt out of the stockyards before you've actually tamed it. How are you going to get back in the stockyards? You're not. It's gone. So I've talked to a lot of young families that I find it really, really difficult. It's getting more and more expensive, and they're looking at leaving. We've lost families. I can name half a dozen families that lost. That's my concern about this whole issue, is we're losing families. We don't need to lose families. We need families to come here. We need families to stay here. So I don't feel like I'm on board with this process. I think we find ourselves in really challenging times. Probably my question, if I needed a reply, is how, again, are we going to address the population growth on the island? What are our thoughts? And again, I say we can do or we can't do community. Because if we can't do, we'll just sit back, and I see we get railroaded out of our hands, and that really concerns me, because we're going to look back in 10 years' time or 5 years' time or 20 years' time and say, we missed an opportunity. So unless we stand up and actually take it on board right now, I'm really, really concerned where population will go downwards. So thank you for letting me address you. I'd like some feedback, please, sometime.
Thank you, Brian. I just want to first and foremost say that we appreciate the submission that you and Debbie put in back in January. That remains a work in progress. That's why we haven't gotten back to you yet with a formal answer. We have another meeting on the very subject, and it's a big, complex subject in itself. We have another meeting of ourselves on Thursday to continue to chip away and work at it, and we're hopeful of trying to just come up with what we hope will be some good outcomes for the future of King Island. But those of us around the table, I assure you, the majority of councillors, if not all of us around the table here, agree with your sentiments. We do want to drive towards trying to improve future planning schemes to make them more flexible, to create more options for property owners to be able to do more with their land within what's reasonable. That being said, it's a very complex set of arrangements and legislations involved. Hence the reason we're working through it at the moment. So just as soon as we think we're ready to give you a proper response based on the technical content of your submission from January, we'll get back to you in the weeks ahead. But it certainly won't be until after Thursday afternoon. We've had our meeting and moving forward after that. And then we'll get back to and we'll brief the King Island public at large on what positive outcomes we've been able to achieve as far as the council is concerned based on their feedback and constructive criticisms on their local provision schedule, consultation and everything else. But as far as growing the population, yes, I assure you, we want to do everything we can to continue to grow King Island's population, probably up to and back to the sweet spot of the 1970s, 3,500 or thereabouts seems to be what everyone, nostalgically thinks back as was the golden era of King Island. And we certainly aspire to have that kind of population here on King Island again, and that would be a balance of filling up all the jobs here, filling up all the sporting clubs, giving small business a real leg up, a big buzz, increasing shipping demand, aviation demand, increasing our rate base, etc., whilst not spoiling the natural wonders of King Island. And I assure you that's where we're driving towards. And I work 46 hours a week as mayor driving towards exactly that, and I'm doing everything I can to try and make it happen on a personal level. But we'll get back to you as soon as you can with a proper answer. But yes, please understand it remains a work in progress. We don't have the answers yet to give you. We'll hopefully have those sometime soon, and when we do, we'll come back to you with a formal response, and we'll also make that known to the King Island public as well. Did you have anything else to add, General Manager, specific to your answer to Kim George?
No, not in respect of that, but I just felt that Brian and the public should be aware that there is basically a restriction upon the councillors coming and talking to you during the period they are considering all of the submissions. That the councillors have to be very cautious about giving the impression that they're prejudging a situation or going in to make a decision with a predetermined position. So they must enter the deliberations with an open mind, being prepared to consider all aspects. And I think that's what the Mayor was referring to, that when a final decision is made, the council can come back to you.
I understand. I know it's difficult and it's complex government. My invitation, you wasn't here, sorry, but I've got 100 acres of land down the Ettrick. We're lucky to run 12 cows. I actually had a cow drop a calf 2 days ago. I don't know what's going to happen there. Hope it rains. My invitation was for anybody who wants to come down to position houses. This is only an example. We're not even looking at doing a subdivision, but there is land there you can position houses without getting tied into 10 acres or 5 acres or 20 acre blocks, that you can position houses without interfering with the next house. So it was an example of how it could be done right, not wrong, not just whack houses left, right and centre. And there'd be many, many places on King Island and the West Coast. So the invitation wasn't to convince anybody which way, it was just to educate. This is what I think could be an example. So that when you have the round table discussion, you've got an open mind enough to say, oh, okay, we've had a look at some land layouts. It doesn't even mention my name. And so therefore, it wasn't to change people's opinions. It was just an example of what I see the way it could be done. And then it can go further up. And sorry, just on one question. Are we seeking Liberal, Labor, Independent advice on this, or are we hamstrung through just legislation on this whole Planning Act?
I think that's kind of a difficult question to answer. We better move along, Brian, but just we'll work with what you're currently giving us, and we'll get back to you when we can. Appreciate your passion. I know this is personal for you, and the submission that you and Debbie put together 2 months ago was very well researched, it was very well evidenced, and we need people like you and others around the island to run for council in the future. We didn't get enough council nominations last time around, last election. I'd love to work with you as an elected councillor in the future. So please consider it, and I make that call to all King Islanders out there who want to continue to change and improve things on King Island. Step up and run for council next time around.
Thank you. And the offer still stands without interfering with the way of the... So any of you who want to come and have a look, give us a ring. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. You're very welcome. Thank you. Barney, did you have a question without notice at all? No. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Public question time is over. We will move forward to item 5, declaration of interests. Are there any for this afternoon from any of the councillors? Didn't think so. Move along. Item 6, there are no questions on notice. Item 7. Questions on notice? Oh, questions without notice. That's item 7. So item 7, questions without notice. Does any councillor have a question without notice? Deputy Mayor has 3. Deputy Mayor has the call.
The container shower and toilet block originally purchased for the grassy football oval no longer needed and has been sitting at the tip for 2.5 years, deteriorating fast. Could council please make a decision on what to do with it? You want to answer that one first?
We'll have a report, Mr Mayor, to the April workshop for council.
Ablutions container.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Three years ago, council moved the Millwood Road pit to be sold. I just would like to know what the hold-up is.
Mr Mayor, I'll have to take that one on notice.
Millwood Road pit. Okay. All right. Noted. Okay.
You right, Leah? Yeah. Could the Acting General Manager provide a full report on Ocean Dunes project, and will council and the ratepayers be safeguarded on future ongoing costs? Will this project provide precedent for any future developments?
Again, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
I'll take that on notice, Mr Mayor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councillor Breen has a question. Councillor Breen.
Yes, I have a question. Could the Acting General Manager prepare a report outlining what steps or processes are needed to progress the proposal for coastal living within the PPZ?
Yes, Mr Mayor, we can do a report on that for you.
Okay, and is that that matter may well be discussed at Thursday afternoon's workshop as well?
Yes.
I would imagine. All right, does any other councillor have a question without notice? Thanks for handing that. Thanks for giving that to us in writing, Councillor Breen. All right, so we'll move along. Item 8. Notices of motion or motions with notice. Motion number 1 is from Councillor Bowden, and it is the Snodgrass Park assistance application. Councillor Bowden, would you like to move your motion?
Yes, I'll move that the motion has printed there that the council agrees to contribute the sum of $15,000 to Snodgrass Park Incorporated for renovation and upgrading of Lot 4 Snodgrass Park.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion on notice? No seconder? You seconding, Councillor Breen? Yeah. Okay. All right, so you can talk to your motion.
Well, thank you. Shall I read through the notes? Or?
Your discretion, sir.
Right. Well, I'll read through. The background. Snodgrass Park Incorporated operates as a committee of 10 volunteers to maintain 23 retirement units on land owned by King Island Council at Edward Street. It's a not-for-profit corporation. Snodgrass Park committee members are currently upgrading and renovating 3 units which are vacant. Units can only be renovated when tenants vacate, die or move to more intensive care. This is not conducive to regular scheduling, unpredictable landlord compulsory upgrading requirements, etc. The objective of Snodgrass Park Incorporated is to provide dignified retirement accommodation for King Islanders on an affordable basis. Residency on King Island is required for 6 months. You pay an entry fee of $1,000, which is non-refundable, and rents are set some 30% below market average rates. Snodgrass Park Incorporated members are not in a position to borrow funds in any foreseeable conditions, and committee members cannot accept commercial risks. The achievements of the committee over decades have been very effective, with most units having been renovated. One unit's about to be completed, that's Unit 17, with a start on 2 units dependent on tradesman availability. Full upgrading to larger bathrooms is often impossible due to the tiny rooms, which make assisted bathing difficulty. Additional side add-on rooms or eliminating middle units are being considered in the unit banks of 3 and 4 units. Upgrading and renovation of Lot 4. Unit 4 is vacant and has not been worked on due to the layout of a single bedroom unit, the scale of work required and the planning complexity. Works have been estimated at $150,000, which amount will be donated before work commences. Contingencies to 10% are not included and must be deposited before work commences to cover likely material delays, freight problems, etc. The main funding of $150,000 will be irrevocably donated by a donor tenant who has met all Snodgrass Park Incorporated preconditions set by Snodgrass Park Incorporated. A legal agreement with the donor tenant is required and must be inspected and signed off. The donor tenant will donate on an irrevocable basis to Snodgrass Park Incorporated, and work will then commence after the building permit is issued. The donor funding is immediately available but will be utilised as Lot 4 work is in progress, with a concurrent sale of retired builders' depot workshop and house, which may contribute to local building capacity and capacity over time, more efficient use of existing housing stock in Curry. The works required mean that it's classified as Class 1 work under the building regulations, and this classification has inflexible council obligations, including bushfire attack level assessment, appointment of a licensed builder, and compliance with plans prepared by a licensed bushfire attack level assessor and a registered building designer as well. All these conditions have been met. The BAL assessment has been prepared and lodged with council. The 20 required drawings are in the hands of Braddon Building Surveyors. I have a copy of them here in my bag if anyone wants to look. $15,000 is requested to assist with the contingencies and also to cover the associated planning costs. Please note that should future units be built under grants from Growing Regions Fund, council would need to provide a minimum 10% cash upfront contribution. And please note also that 3 previous grant applications, which included this work, have been unsuccessful and usually required 25% of costs to be contributed in cash. The amount requested is 10% of costs for the current scheme entitled Growing Regions Fund. 10% is required because we're classified as a remote area. And schemes must be amalgamated with Tasmanian schemes to achieve multi-million-dollar scale. So please note also that given the current level of work that the council officers have in front of them, there is no imposition on council officers' time involved, and no precedent will be set directly on fee waivers, etc. Eventually, if the donor tenant is permanently unable to live in the unit, it will revert to Snodgrass Park Incorporated control as lessee of the council-owned land and controllers of the existing units. I'll put in a second motion. Do you want to take them one at a time?
Just deal with the first motion first.
Yes.
So that's anything then to add to your first motion? Is that happy with that?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden. We'll go to debate now. Councillors like to debate. Councillor Cook.
Yeah, I'm not against the thing in principle, but there's a couple of questions that we need to be certain we're not starting some sort of precedent. First of all, although it says irrevocably donated, how are we going to be sure that descendants of these people won't make a claim on the end of their death? And are we going to be up for maybe possible court cases down the line to settle estates, etc.? The other one, another question is ongoing maintenance. If the person is self-funding the unit, are we still responsible for maintenance, or is that part of the rent or whatever? There's a few questions I'd like to see just tightened up, and so that we are providing something and not providing a rate for our own,
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Cook. Just a right of reply, Councillor Bowden, quick right of reply. And then Deputy Mayor has the call after that. You have a right of reply to answer Councillor Cook's questions if you can. You may not be able to, but if you can.
Well, thank you for the questions. Yes, they're very valid points. In regard to the first point, which I think was about possible claims later from descendants, normally after a will is read and they have been looking forward to, inheriting an estate and now find that some of it's been given away. In this particular case, there will be a legal agreement which does cover that point. And secondly, the lady does not have direct descendants. And she's very well aware that she can't bequeath or bequest. She stands as a tenant in regard to the law. As regards the second point, the tenant will be just that. They will sign a separate tenant agreement. It is not in the scope of the work I've done to try and get this development moving to touch on matters to do with the tenancy agreement. That is a separate matter. If they are to ask for some kind of a concessional rental or anything of that kind, that's a matter between them and Snodgrass Park Committee. And I must indicate that that's not to indicate that it would be even considered or favourably received, because the total rental income is really the only income that Snodgrass Park has, and it's fully committed doing up units, and we can't be sure when units are going to be available to be renovated and upgraded, because it depends on them being empty. And so how do you predict when the people are going to die, move to more intensive care, leave the island permanently, etc.? You just have to sit and wait for events to transpire, essentially, and have enough funds there to act immediately so that you can get it back on the market.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden. Deputy Mayor.
Mr Mayor, I move amendment. We refer this back to a budget workshop and get more details and see if we've got an agreement with Snodgrass Park, a lease agreement, so we're all sure of everything.
So Deputy Mayor proposes an amended motion. Can we write that up before I call for a seconder on that? Have you...
I do apologise.
That's all right. You just give that to us again, please, Deputy Mayor. Just give that to us, that amended motion again, to us again, just so we can write it up before I call for a seconder. For the
refer this back to a budget workshop where we can get some more details there and see if we've got an agreement with Snodgrass Park.
Okay, so that's the proposed amended motion. We can't see the wording because that monitor is on the blink. Are you able to bring the wording up anywhere? Well, yeah, I think we get the gist of it. If not, yeah. Okay, here we go. So this is the amended motion that the item be deferred to our upcoming budget workshops and follow up or confirm the lease or agreement with Snodgrass Park. Was that? Just a second. I'm just framing the amended motion. and then I'll see if there's a seconder for it. The screen is.
Read it out.
Yeah, thanks. Read it out.
Sorry. Move Councillor Philby that amendment.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that amended motion? A seconder. Councillor Cook has seconded. Deputy Mayor, would you like to talk to that amended motion?
I think pretty clear. We just need a bit more information. I can understand what Councillor Bowden's doing, and I support him, but I think we need some more information.
Okay. Councillor Bowden.
Can I just take a point of clarification? When you talk about in your amendment lease agreement, do you mean the basic leasing of the land between
The whole
a council and...
yeah,
Is that the lease you're referring to? Because
the whole lease of the whole area.
not
yeah.
the particular details of any lease agreement or agreement.
The whole lot.
Block 4. And I don't return.
Councillor Allen.
Mayor, can I move an amendment to that motion, please?
Sorry.
So you can foreshadow an amendment.
Can I foreshadow an amendment, please?
How does that? Because obviously we've got to deal with this amendment.
Yeah.
It's got to be,
Well, Mr Mayor, when there's an amendment before the chair, any subsequent amendment has to be foreshadowed. Then when all debate's finalised, then the amendment is put first.
Yeah.
If the amendment is carried, then it becomes the motion,
Yeah,
and a
right.
foreshadowed amendment can then be moved and debated. If the amendment is lost, you've come back to the original motion and it's available again for the
Understand.
foreshadowed amendment
you.
to be moved.
Yeah.
All right, so Councillor Allen, you can foreshadow what's... Go ahead.
I say the foreshadowment now, do I? If that's a word. Luke, can you just read it to me so I know? Just about the last 10 words, please.
That the item be deferred to a budget workshop for further details and
Yeah.
the council's agreements.
Yeah, so just the amendment is from further details. It's for qualified advice.
Okay, all right. So we are voting on the amended wording, or we will vote unless there's more debate. We will go to a vote on the amended motion put up by the Deputy Mayor, mindful that another option has been suggested as well that might be available to us if this amendment is successful or otherwise. So no further debate on the amended motion or moving forward to considering the amended motion. That's what we're voting on at this stage. All those in favour to move forward with the amended motion?
Can I just say, if the amended motion gets up, then the foreshadowed one can go.
Okay, so we have unanimous. Motion is carried. Amended motion is carried unanimously. So we will now move forward with the amended motion. Deputy Mayor, anything else you would like to talk to?
No.
So,
Councillor Allen, please.
if I can just talk briefly to the amended motion. What the amended motion seeks to do is to maybe cast the net a little wider about the different details and different advices, bits of advice we're after from all sorts of things, from, as Councillor Philby said, to look at the particular ownership from it, also the legal integrity of this, the proposal that Councillor Bowden puts to what Snodgrass Park Incorporated is also seeking to do. So it gives us an opportunity to gather a whole lot of additional information that goes beyond what Councillor Philby does, Councillor Philby seeks.
Okay. So
Councillor Allen moving the foreshadowed amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to second it then?
okay, do we have a seconder for? Yes, Councillor Healy has seconded. All those in favour to accept that foreshadowed amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So carried unanimously. So Councillor Allen, you can now talk to the updated motion or the amended motion, if required.
No, Mr Mayor, the foreshadowed motion is now, the foreshadowed amendment is now carried.
Yep.
So it now becomes the substantive motion.
Yes, and
then-
topic for discussion and or further debate. Yep.
And, probably you've exhausted debate. You just put the
Okay.
substantive motion,
Yep.
which was Councillor Allen's.
Yeah, thanks. I understand now.
Okay,
Thank you.
everyone, yes, it's can get somewhat complex and layers within layers, but that's where we are. We are voting now on this most recent foreshadowed and or amended motion. So we'll now go to the vote on that. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. So that motion is carried. So the original motion 8.1 now lapses, having been replaced by the amended motion. We will continue on now on item 8, 8.2, the Growing Regions Fund. Councillor Bowden, would you like to move your 8.2
Yes.
motion on notice?
Thank you, Mayor.
So you'll move
The motion is that the council agrees to engage the services of local registered building designer and accredited building practitioner, Mr. Russell Masters, trading as Trax Building Design, to design a scaled plan for double bedroom units to fully utilise the space available in the council-owned and controlled area of Snodgrass Park. Secondly, the motion notes that the fee estimation of $2,000 with this amount be funded through Council's small grant scheme.
Okay, thank you. That is the motion. Do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder for the motion? Deputy Mayor has seconded. Councillor Bowden, you're welcome to continue to talk to the motion.
Yes, thank you for that, Mayor. For future units are to be built under grants from the Growing Regions Fund, the Acting General Manager has indicated that there will be discussions with representatives of Snodgrass Park Incorporated. I think there, on that point, we need to bear in mind that Snodgrass Park Committee sees their role as managing the right-hand side of the road if you drive around a circle, and that the land I'm talking about here is the vacant land, the old recreation ground, if you like, that is on the left-hand side of the road and at present contains, partly on one side of it, 2 units that the council built some time ago with a grant they obtained, I think, and also a Lions Club barbecue hut with occasionally used for local functions there. So that's where the line of surely Snodgrass Park would want to be advised of any council moves, but they see it as above their capacity to manage major grants or things of that kind, you see. They're certainly not indicating that they're opposed to it in any way, it's just that they see it as something in council's orbit. As a basis for these discussions, a concept plan should be prepared showing the siting of future units. This concept plan will be designed to be used for future grant applications to Growing Regions Fund. Even if all units were not built, a concept plan would be useful to guide future development. So that's about it, councillors. If we can get more downsizing happening in the community from the current situation, it will lead with people who own large houses and they're sitting in them having reached an age where they're not as fit as they might have been and not as able to organise looking after large places as well as they hope they probably would have been able to in their old age. It will lead to more efficient use of our existing housing stock, which is a key point for council to consider. So yes, it's an investment in future planning, I think, and trying to get something concrete, perhaps not shovel ready, but I will ask him to do a concept plan, probably along the lines of duplex units, similar to the 2 that the council last built around Snodgrass Park.
So thank you, Councillor Bowden. So I'll just the first question is mine, and hopefully it will alleviate questions that other councillors may ask, but just confirming that the intent of this motion is to examine and have shovel-ready the partial or full subdivision of the remaining vacant real estate in Snodgrass Park ready should development funding become available in the near future?
Yes.
Okay. General Manager, did you ever?
Well, Mr Mayor, I only just wanted to probably verify the fact that Councillor Bowden and I did have a discussion, and as he's indicated in here, that if there is funding through the Growing Regions Fund, that we will be talking to representatives of the Snodgrass Park Incorporated, and that a plan in the form represented here would certainly be of use to council. So I would support it if I'm able to say that. I would certainly support it. It's something that council definitely needs.
Any other questions then from any councillors? I think hopefully that has just confirmed the overall intent of this motion and the importance of where we're now having things shovel ready.
I agree. I think it's a really good concept. I wonder if there'll be findings of what was passed in the previous motion, our legal opportunities and our legal liabilities. I wonder if it's a tiny bit premature to be doing this plan now. Just throwing that out, given that we will have a much better idea once we've actually have had further discussions on ownerships and legal implications.
Fair consideration. Councillor Bowden, did you have anything to respond to that?
No, I didn't hear it very well, sorry.
It was essentially, given that we will make a decision on the previous motion quite quickly, in 2-3 months, quite quickly, I wonder if perhaps we could delay this particular one until we get some a better idea on ownership and costings and implications. I wonder if...
Yes, I know that the General Manager has got on his desk. Best person to speak on that matter, really.
Mr Mayor, the applications for the Growing Region Fund will go in during round 2 of the program. Now, it's round 1 at the moment is being dealt with, and that's the Ocean Dunes application. Round 2 will be dependent upon when the Commonwealth releases the information. Now, whether that information is in 1 month, 2 months or 3 months is not in our control. As the Mayor said, there is an advantage in having something shovel ready. Regardless of whether the application needed to go in tomorrow or in 3 months' time, this plan will be useful. If it was prepared now, the chances of there being a change between now and when an application was submitted is negligible. We're talking about an existing site the council does own. I've certainly verified that. The council does own it. The council is entitled to put in the application as owner, and the plan will be useful, and I believe it should be done as quickly as possible.
My only reservation is, I'm not sure about others around the table, just the implications of the ownership and the management and how involved Snodgrass Park would be in a future plan. I find that all quite muddy.
Well, as it stands, it's a council project on council land.
Right.
QED. There's no ifs and buts.
I know I speak on behalf of all councillors when we've discussed and we recognise that we need more retirement housing capacity here on the island, and there is a heck of a lot of vacant space at Snodgrass Park that needs to be redeployed to fill that capacity and that growth. That will have flow-on effects by people who want to move off the land and downsize, and people who want to downsize other houses and go into a retirement villa. So I see it personally as a good thing, and take on board the concerns of Councillor Healy and others. In the meantime, there's absolutely in my opinion, nothing wrong with going forward and at least looking at designs for the carve-up of that remaining vacant space at Snodgrass Park to create additional capacity in the future, and I consider that to be a worthy investment by the council, if other councillors agree.
And I'd just like to add too, it's not a huge sum. $2,000 is nothing these days, and if this gives us a leg up to get funding out of the Better Regions Fund, I think it's a great idea, and we should grasp the opportunity.
All right, thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Allen.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a question. What's the scope of the design brief? So is it? So the question is, what's the scope of the design brief? Is it just designing units, or is it planned for all the vacant space in that?
It's basically about efficient utilisation of all the vacant space.
What I'm asking. Yeah, right, yeah.
There'll be one example of a unit put up, and I will point out that Russell has spent a large part of his career designing this kind of housing.
Understand?
He's an expert in this area.
So I'd be correct in saying that it's actually doing a design, a concept design for the entire vacant space on that property. Yep. Yeah. I'm just trying to understand the scope, and in understanding the scope, then I understand how useful it'll be for a submission. Also too, like there's 1,000 different ways you can build a 2-bedroom unit. Who's designing who's briefing the designer on that to understand the quality and type of unit we're aiming towards, or is it a design that doesn't require that level of detail?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Allen's final comment was exactly right. We're talking about a concept plan at the moment. Yeah, and so the idea is just to be able to have an understanding of what can be located on the site, right? And then when an application goes into the Commonwealth Government, that we've got an indication as to whether we apply for funding for 2 dwellings or 10 dwellings. Right? The internal configuration is just conceptual. To be able to demonstrate to probably the Commonwealth, but prior to that to the Council, that this is the sort of facility that's being contemplated.
Any final questions or discussion before we go to a vote on this matter? All right, so just confirming that the motion 2 there has been moved and seconded. The wording hasn't changed. We're voting on the wording exactly as written in the agenda in front of us. Hasn't changed on the screen, obviously. We'll go to a vote now. All those in favour for the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I'll just let Leah catch up and we'll move on to item 9. Confirmation of the previous minutes. Previous minutes from our ordinary council meeting last month held on the 20th of February. They've been distributed and made available. Would somebody like to move that we accept those previous minutes? Deputy Mayor has moved. A second. Councillor Cook is seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 10.1 is the Mayor's diary, my diary from last month. I don't have anything particularly to highlight from last month, but I welcome any questions or discussion at the councillor's discretion. Being no questions, would somebody like to move my diary be accepted? Councillor Green has moved. A seconder. Councillor Healy seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across the page, item 11.1, the finance report for February 2024. I just note that there's not as many financial tables attached to the report this month as there usually is. I'm sure there's a valid reason for it, but I just note that. Any questions or discussion? The council's discretion is welcome. Councillor Allen, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's a segue from your comment, Mayor. Am I right to assume that the reason why this is finance report light version is because we've committed to detailed ones quarterly?
No, Mr. Mayor, that's not exactly right. Mr. Stevens had some restrictions, time restrictions in terms of when he could submit the report. Plus, as you know, I've had some discussions with councillors as well as with staff in terms of trying to minimise the amount of, no, probably minimise is not the right word, but to try and ensure that the information that's submitted to council is worthwhile information and it's focused information. So this wasn't an experiment with that particular approach, but it was a combination of things, if you like, that it is an opportunity for us to look at whether truncating the information is worthwhile But at the same time, Mr Stevens had some constraints on his time to be able to do a full report.
Understood. Thanks, Jan. All right, so any further questions then or discussion on what has been provided? Deputy Mayor has moved that the financial report be accepted, so we have a seconder. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to page 25 is the item 12.1, the operations report for February. I'm delighted to say that, and we've all seen it, there has been a spate of works activity happening over recent months, commensurate with gravel becoming available, commensurate with favourable weather to catch up on a whole backlog of jobs. So I acknowledge the work being done by the works team under Dave and others. It's a whole council team effort to make that happen, and it's very gratifying to see that happening around the island at the moment. Peter White dropped in today to talk to the Deputy Mayor and myself, and he said that the painting of the comms tower just to the north of town, as far as he's concerned, has been extremely successful. The tower looks as good as new. So clearly our painters for the lighthouse and those towers are doing a good job. So that was also gratifying to hear. Any questions then or discussions from councillors relating to capital work? Councillor Healy?
The painting of the comms tower has had a great impact on availability of radio and other things. Is that comms tower now complete?
I believe it is complete. So, but I just have to double check. There might be one.
Still a little bit.
Radio was
bit to
pretty
go.
fuzzy this morning.
Yeah.
Radio was bad this morning.
So, if it's, I think, unless someone can specifically answer it, it's not far off being finished. If it's not finished yet, but it's obviously getting very close to, and radio should hopefully return to the airwaves without interruption. Hopefully in the days ahead.
They're out there painting it now.
Right. Great.
Any further questions, Councillor Owen?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Just on page 26, it's got State Growth Works. It says profiling. Can someone explain to me what profiling is, please?
Yes. Profiling.
Profiling.
What exactly does that mean? It's a technical term.
It's not an artistic term, is it?
I've got an idea, but unless Mr Fort's got a better idea as a qualified person.
Through the Mayor, the profiling is usually a machine that essentially goes through the pavement, munches it up, and allows them to either stabilise the material that's there or take it out and put new material in.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Thanks for that, Colin. I'm trying to understand how long it's going to take to fix a section of road on the State Growth Road to Grassy, and it's about 2 kilometres south of the Bagara Corner, and it's a bit where there's sections of the road that have broken through on the sealed section, and the traffic has actually got so used to it that when you drive to Grassy, you pretend you're actually driving the States and you go completely on the other side of the road. And it's been like it for some period of time. So my question is, are those 3 items there, or the 2 profiling items, are actually covering the repair of that piece of road that's been like it for, like, it's actually like it before I started growing this moustache, to be quite honest.
Thanks, Councillor Allen. Yeah, look, General Manager said that with the absence of Dave, we'll have to take that one on notice as well.
Yeah, and just to follow up, if it's not there, can we just sort of get on the phone to State Growth and say, fix your road for heaven's sake, because it is bordering on dangerous, and the fact is quite often the signage there has been positioned so you would have to have reflexes as good as Max Verstappen to pull your vehicle up prior to hitting it. So,
noted. Thanks, Councillor Allen. Councillor Green?
I'm just wondering how the rock crushing is going. I noticed this has been in before, that it was sent to the laboratory for testing, and we sort of haven't had any upgrades on what might be happening with the gravel. How's it going?
Yes, good question. I've certainly heard good things myself, but I haven't yet seen the evidence or proof of that.
I can comment it's going very well. Yeah. We've got plenty of gravel and just doing the crushing for the ceiling now. Yeah. It's going very well.
It's met our specification, has it? And
Yeah,
we're happy with
yeah.
value for money,
They're happy
quality
with
and
everything.
specification that we're receiving. Okay, that's...
I'll formally report on that as well.
Yeah, well, the GM will take that away as well, just to confirm from a technical standpoint and send out a technical response to that as well. But I've heard good things anecdotally, and we can see some of the excellent repairs happening around the island with this new high quality gravel that we've finally unlocked. So hopefully that good work will continue. Any further questions, Councillor Cook?
Just one on page 27. You've got a couple of blocks there, and one is the source stream. It shows us where the waste is coming from, and according to that, the last thing on the item is mix, which is other sources of waste, including green waste, tyres, oil, etc. All the time I've been on the council, I've never seen anything in that column. Does that mean we're not getting any green waste, tyres or oils going into the tip?
Yeah, very good question, Councillor Cook. All of us have seen a heap of green waste out there, and all of us have dropped off tyres and oil and other things, I'm sure, from time to time. So that looks like a rectify or fix that we'll take on board, and we'll make sure that that column is populated in future meetings. Particularly our waste working group that we're having coming up again soon. So I know the Deputy GM was taking note of that as well. I also note that there you can see across on page 29 that commensurate with our peak season and all of our big summer events, the waste has spiked for January and February. Probably will be pretty high for March as well, and then start to go down as we head into the winter months. Any final questions then or discussion on the operations report? Somebody like to move that we accept it? Councillor Cook has moved a seconder. Councillor Healy has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page. Airport Services Report for February 2024. First and foremost, I'd just like to congratulate Colin and the airport team for successfully delivering and getting back on schedule and on budget the airfield lighting project. It's been installed, successfully tested, it's been certified, and it's fully operational, as well as the runway having been repainted and everything else. And already we're hearing great accolades from the pilots and crews that are coming in, especially RFDS at night, so they can see it from 40 nautical miles like a beacon. So it's a significant success story. It shows that, again, when the council applies ourselves, we can successfully deliver complex projects for the benefit of the island. So well done, Colin, to you and your team. It's a great coup for aviation safety. It's a great coup for improving our airport complex, and hopefully will lead to, down the track, being able to increase aircraft movements and to be able to increase capacity at our airport and host, bigger aircraft and more airline operators in the future. So well done. Any discussions, Councillor Healy?
Just a comment on the long-term car park. It's now that we have gravel, that's all happening.
Yes.
It's going really well. Thanks to the community for their patience in realising that the long-term car park is a slightly longer walk, but it's actually happening, and the bitumen was going down today, I believe. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, you're right. It's another success story. Well done. It dropped down the priority because of the problems with the abandoned vehicles and private property, but we've got that one back on track as well. So again, congratulations to Colin and the team for getting that back up and running again.
Dave Muir as well.
And Dave, of course, we can't forget our own works crew who are laying that asphalt. That's fantastic. And as soon as we get that long-term car park sorted, I know the airport team has plans to move on to hardening and expanding aircraft parking apron space, some terminal rectifications and other things that will continually improve our airport complex and with hopefully increased passenger throughput and increased aircraft movements in the future. I also note that the interim coffee van is physically in location at the front of the airport at the moment. Being plumbed in, powered in, should be up and running in a matter of days, as I understand it.
I understand Sunday.
Yeah. Excellent.
I understand Sunday.
Okay, it's been a long time coming, much to our consternation, but it's happening, as well as the elaborate fit out for the airport cafe is in the works as well. So hopefully that's not too far away either. Any other questions then or discussions relating to the airport report? Somebody like to move the recommendation on page 32? Deputy Mayor's moved. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across the page, item 13.1, Community Development Report. I've received positive feedback on the newsletters, council newsletters that go out in hard copy, in letter boxes and in post boxes, as well as electronically. It's good, succinct messaging from the council. It's well received. Yes, it's swoon to put on everyone's fridges, but I think that's been that's been quite successful, and I've personally received very good feedback on that. So thanks to Mark and the team who have put that together and distributed it to everyone. Any questions then relating to pages 33 and pages 34? All right, somebody like to move the Community Development Report be accepted? Councillor Healy has moved. A seconder. Councillor Bowden has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across the page to 13.2, the Cultural Development Report for February. Again, plenty happening in this space, thanks to the work of Mark, his team, and a whole range of volunteers involved as well. Hopefully this summer just finished has been a big revival for our gallery, for our artistic community, and it's contributed to and achieve what we wanted it to achieve across the summer period. Any questions?
Just a quick comment.
Councillor Healy.
Previous exhibition, the Island Voices, was unbelievably good. There's a new exhibition opening on Friday, which is called Birds. Has a lot of locals who have actually contributed to the works, and it's going to be stunning. So that opens on Friday and goes through till the 5th of May. Will be lovely.
Excellent. All right. No further questions. Would somebody like to move the recommendation on page 45? Councillor Healy has moved. A seconder. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to page 45. 14.1, Growth and Strategy Report for February. Mindful that Helen is absent tonight. And I note the attachment, which is our King Island Tourism Strategy 2023-2026. It's extant. Anyone have any discussion or questions relating to the Growth and Strategy Report? Councillor Healy.
The strategy has been revised a tiny bit from what we saw recently, nothing of any particular content. Very excitingly, in the next couple of days, we've actually got the CEO of Tourism Tas visiting, the CEO of TICT, which is the tourism industry body, West by Northwest, the CEO of West by Northwest, and also Steve Farquhar regarding transport on the island. So some really big people are showing a lot of interest, and it's very exciting.
They have some sort of a function available for King Islanders
yes, so on
Thursday afternoon?
Thursday afternoon at Ocean Dunes. It's essentially Thursday afternoon?
Yep, 5 o'clock.
Yep, at 5 o'clock. There is, on Facebook, there's a place you can register to do that. It's essentially talking about the off-season, so how we can entice more people to get here during the off-season, which is historically winter. On Facebook, there are places you can register your attendance, and there are some really important, lovely people coming. So it would be a good thing for any interested community members.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Healy. I know Colin will be as well, very interested to get Steve Farquhar's update, just to see how he's tracking, looking particularly focused on our aviation capacity in King Island and where we'd like to grow in that domain. So I look forward to catching up with him as well. Councillor Allen?
Yeah, thanks. I just got a question about the policy, and I don't know if Councillor Healy can answer this or not. I understand this is an amended version from the one that we passed as a council?
That is correct. The first one was a bit of a preliminary one that the local tourism people had put together.
Yep.
It then went to the higher echelons, to Tourism Tas and things, and there were just a little bit of wording that wasn't quite consistent with the 2031 strategies. So it's just sort of bordered into line with the Tasmanian one, but still having a King Island focus.
And you probably answered my follow-up question, Councillor Healy, and it was to my understanding that West by Northwest had not endorsed our previous version, but do they now endorse this version?
I believe so, yes.
I'll aim to confirm that with them when they're here on Thursday.
Yep.
Yeah, because it does have their logo on it, but yeah, it was to my understanding they had some suggestions for alterations for our previous version.
And as I said, it was to bring it in line with the tourism strategy for taking us a little bit more into the future, but still with a major King Island bent about it.
Thanks, Councillor.
And just a request, considering that we have actually endorsed a previous version of this and now it's got the council logo on it, can we just have a track changes version just for our information that we know that what's being altered on the fly?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Noted. Thanks, Councillor Allen. Any final questions then on discussion? Somebody would like to move the recommendation on page 46? Councillor Healy has moved. A seconder. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Growth and Strategy Report carried unanimously. Across now to page 57. Where are we? Yes, okay. Item 15.1, which is a King Island Hub update. Again, we've recently workshopped this material, mindful that Helen is not here this afternoon. Is there any required discussion or questions relating to this? Move ahead. Would someone like to move that it be received? Deputy Mayor's moved. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page to item 15.2, which is the Curry Courts improvements. Again, in the absence of Helen, and I know some questions on this tonight might have been asked of her, we've recently received some interest from the high school students and others who requested their consultation as part of this, the refurbishment of these courts. That's pretty much. Councillor Allen, if you can update us, that'd be great.
Yeah, look, I can't really update you as such, but just a suggestion I want to throw in there under the community communication section of it, and I will bring this up at the whatever the PCG stands for, Project Control Group meeting, that it suggests it's got listed key stakeholders such as the King Island Netball Association, the King Island District High School students. There isn't a current tennis club or tennis competition association operating on King Island, but my suggestion is to throw it open to interested tennis players, so at least consideration is done to make sure that there's a suitable facility for tennis players, and we're getting that input and not just basically designing a netball facility with tennis as an afterthought.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Allen. That's a good suggestion. Many of you would have seen back in the day, and I've certainly heard about how popular tennis here used to be on King Island. It'd be nice to see it played here again and the club reformed if we've got the facilities to be able to do that in the future.
You'd think they were playing for sheep stations. It was a very intense competition.
And
just asked Vernon, he was keen.
You're having your sport and rec meeting as well, working group meeting on Friday? Is that correct?
Possibly based on who can make it on that particular day. We may have to postpone.
Yeah,
considering commitments everyone else has. Yep.
Okay, I just highlight that that's coming up soon, and just for your information. All right, would somebody like to move the recommendation on page 58? Councillor Cook has moved. Councillor Allen has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across the page to item 15.3, Recycling Modernisation Fund update. Again, we're yet to have our first waste working group for the year, unless it was held in my absence over the past week. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, I was unavailable to attend, and no doubt we've got another one coming up soon. But much to our consternation and frustration, this continues at somewhat glacial pace at the moment. But we're hopeful of a breakthrough sometime soon. If anyone else has got anything to add, situational awareness in this space, Councillor Cook, have you got anything to add?
All depends on the next meeting.
Okay, all right. Somebody like to move the recommendation? Councillor Cook has moved. Seconder. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Right, over the page, item 16.1, the General Manager's Report. It's always at the GM's discretion if he would like to plug anything or cover any wave tops. Otherwise, we'll just go with questions and or discussions.
Questions, Mr Mayor?
Roger.
Happy to answer any questions.
Again, because of our recent workshops, we're across pretty well all the detail on this.
Yeah. Well, Mr Mayor, I suppose the only one to emphasise is the Works Manager, who will arrive here on the 8th of April. He has accepted our offer and should be here on the 8th. That's planned.
That's excellent news. Excellent news. So outside experience and expertise coming in as well,
yes,
to add to our organisation and grow our organisation, which is always good. And hopefully things work out housing-wise as well for the individual.
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Okay, all right. All right, so no further questions then on discussion. Would somebody like to move that the General Manager's report be accepted? I have a move for it. Councillor Healy has moved. Deputy Mayor has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across the page, item 16.2, council workshops held. We've had 2 recent workshops, which virtually all of us attended, which is excellent. The tempo of workshops continues. Nothing to add, GM, on that?
No, Mr Mayor.
Most of the content of that has fed into this meeting tonight. Councillor Healy?
Just a quick comment on workshops. There was a little bit of feedback in the last month that these particular meetings seem very quick and tick and flick, and just for the recording, for public knowledge, we actually do a lot of work. We have read all these documents prior to attending this particular meeting. We attend workshops very regularly, and it's probably just something that the community might not be aware of when they listen to this meeting. We've just flicked through the General Manager's, and it's so brilliantly put together, but we are all aware of all the factors in it. It's something that the community, by listening just to this recording, would not be aware of the work that we actually do prior to approving and moving motions and passing them.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Healy. I've also heard comments to the effect that interested constituents out there should be able to come and sit in on all of our detailed workshops on matters. All I say to that is, and I don't want to be mean or I don't want to sound curt on this, but that's what you get elected to council for. Councillors who are elected are trusted to be responsible and have authority over that technical detail, numbers and all the commercial sensitivities involved. That's what you get elected to office for. We don't allow people to come and sit in our workshops for that reason. We are discussing and considering internal council business and internal decision making.
And just further to that, and people are very welcome to grab a copy, have a look online at this agenda. It's detailed, all the information's there. That is open for people to look at. So it's, yes.
Yes, indeed. Well said, Councillor Lee. I always say that our ordinary council meeting agenda is the owner's manual for King Island. Everything is in there associated with the running of the island, financials of the council, everything. It's the go-to reference for, it will answer not 80% of our constituents' questions. Councillor Bowe.
I support what you said there, Mayor, but in the past it's often been valuable to invite someone with specialist knowledge along to address a workshop, and I don't think anything you've said
we do.
is against that continuing.
No, we do that and we should do that. Yes, you're right, absolutely. Sometimes we need an expert or subject matter expert opinion to contribute to our workshop, the technical aspects, and help shape the best decision or facilitate the best decision making for the council itself. You're right. But it's not open to the public, and in my opinion as Mayor, nor should it be open to the public, excluding technical experts who come along, as you said, Councillor Bowden. All right, would somebody like to move the recommendation on page 66? Councillor Green has moved, a seconder. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Councillor Allen? Carried unanimously. Item 16.3, information report for February. As we do, we'll go through and dissect this section by section. Not too much movement in the building permits and notifications last month, I see. Procurements, any questions or discussion relating to procurements? We have an expanding list there, which is good to see. Move on to the crowd favourite, the updated action list from page 70 onwards. And I just remind everyone that it runs in reverse order, so that the most recent actions are at the very bottom of the list. So we'll go through this bit by bit. Any questions specific questions relating to the action list? Councillor Cook?
Yeah, what's the page? 74. Originally a question by Councillor Iannell. Asked if it's been possible to include more information on the services request section. I was just wondering if there has been anything along that line thought about, whether it be prioritising the list or marking it safety or giving it some sort of...
Yes, thank you.
Mr Mayor, that will come to the April workshop.
Yeah, watch this space. Any more questions then or discussion on the action list? Just move on to then service requests. 14 for the month of February. Our monthly average is typically around 20, so a slightly quieter month. It would appear for February, with the usual suspects there listed. We still have 42 total outstanding, the backlog, many of which are probably being cleared at the moment. Now the gravel is flowing. Any further questions then or discussions? Somebody like to move the information report be accepted? I have a mover. Deputy Mayor has moved. I seconder. Councillor Bowden has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across the page, item 16.4, policy review. Recently workshopped our revised and updated credit card policy. I think we're all, we've seen this, we're all aware of it. Can I straight away therefore call for a mover? Councillor Healy has moved. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to page 86. Right, item 16.5, Main Street Curry Parking Review Project. After much discussion, many designs and redesigns and other conceptuals and 2 or 3 workshops on the subject, we've arrived at a final solution that we are now costing to deliver next financial year, along with some concurrent beautification of Main Street Curry, which we want to happen at the same time, which I'm sure all King Islanders will be happy with. Now, as we've discussed before, Main Street Curry is not Hastings Street, Noosa. It's not Bondi Junction. It's not Pitt Street, Sydney. We have to make the most of the existing design and legacy layout of the Curry Township as it currently stands. And with that, we were only ever going to be able to deliver an 80% solution as far as improvements and consultation and feedback from our constituents were concerned. So I'm confident that what we will deliver next financial year will be a significant improvement and will incorporate most of the service requests, complaints, constructive criticisms we've had from our constituents and improve the overall parking design of Curry, improve the flow, improve access for disabled people, increase capacity significantly. But there was a couple of trade-offs that we were aware of where we didn't have a good answer for a few things, and so we are going to install this new design and in 18 months' time after that new parking design has been delivered, we will then review bus parking in particular and a couple of handicap parking or disabled parking spaces to see if they're in the optimum location or if we'll move them from lessons learned. So we've built that into our consideration as well. So for all King Islanders out there, this should be very happy news or very good news for them. And I know we as a council look forward to funding this and delivering this as a very high priority project for next financial year. Does anybody else have anything to add? Any questions or discussion? Councillor Allen?
I'm just happy to move those 3 motions.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Well done to Mick and others for all the work and input into that. All right. Item 16.6 is the Parks Master Plan, and we've inserted an amendment, so we're going to be working off the insert. So it'll just identify the insert you've been received. We're going to go with that as far as consideration moving forward. Any discussion or questions relating to the amended insert? Well, again, we'll take our time in case anyone hasn't seen it as yet. Councillor Allen? Yes.
I'd like to move the recommendations, please, on the amended paper.
Thank you. Councillor Allen. I have a seconder.
Yeah.
Councillor Green. Sorry, Councillor Allen.
Yeah, if
Go
I
ahead.
could speak.
Yes, absolutely.
Please. I've had an opportunity to sit down with the General Manager and talk through these, and it was terrific to sort of just be reminded of a few things and ground that we'd covered beforehand. A lot of the work's already been done, and back in, it was 2018 or 2019 or one of those years, we had leisure consultants come over and do a recreation plan for King Island. And we sat in the meeting and we adopted it. And unfortunately, it's been a document that's sat on a shelf, like quite a few others that, do gather dust. And and Exhibit 1 there, thanks Mayor, is the plan. So pleasingly, the General Manager has had a good read through it, and much of the master planning for sport, recreation, our parks and areas has been done. So what these recommendations do, I think, is a really sensible approach to this, is to just refresh that document. Things such as the township of Grassy has changed. The mines in production, the Ballarat and Clarendon campus has since closed. So the leisure and recreation needs of that community would have altered slightly since that report's done. So the steps in this is firstly to just revamp that plan. And the second part of it is to revamp it and especially to look at the township of Grassy. And that was one of the priorities that the Parks and Rec Committee had actually identified through our process. So of the areas that we thought in King Island, and we did it quite sort of systematically and objectively, Grassy was an area that needed leisure and recreation planning, especially for the facility. So these amended motions are absolutely in keeping with that as well. And the other bit too is we identified that the Narra Cooper foreshore area needs a little bit more detailed planning, so we can take the next step and see if we can seek funding to make some of these things happen. So councillors, what I can say to you is these are amended motions, but they're actually totally in keeping with the sentiments and the way that the Parks and Recreation Group wants to go ahead with planning for King Island.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Well put. And yes, I was unaware of this document, and I hadn't read it either myself until recently. So if any councillor has not seen this or doesn't have it on their pile of quick grab references, please get yourself a copy of it. Well put. All right. So the recommendations have been moved and seconded. No further debate. Any further discussion or questions relating to the insert motion? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Move across to page 100 now. Item 16.7, delegations to the acting general manager or a future substantive general manager. Recently workshopped, and I commend the work that acting general manager Robert Ball and the council leadership team have done to put this together. It's probably a 90% solution, because we know that there will always be, it will pretty much have to be a live document. There will be ongoing changes, there'll be amendments, and through legislative changes, there'll be additions and deletions over time. So this is a 90% solution, but it's an excellent start. So thank you, Acting GM, for giving us this start. And it's something we will all monitor and pay more attention to in the future, and protects the council. And obviously all the authorities that we as council have, and the acts, all the various acts that we, and there are quite a few of them that we operate under in the discharge of our duties out there every day in our various departments as a council. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, Mayor, I have a question for us. Just on pages 104 through to 109, it's just the bits highlighted in yellow. So what's underneath the yellow is as will be in the final document. It's not some funny track changes thing. So I'm just trying to look at the significance of the yellow, whether there's anything that I need to be aware of.
Mr Mayor, as indicated in the report, a spreadsheet came out from LGAT outlining what they considered were delegations for consideration by council. Those delegations did not have amounts attached to them. Where Kate had previously, the General Manager had previously gone through this document and had attached some monetary figure to those delegations. There are some additional suggestions that I've made, but I've built on the work that Ms Murray had done. Now, I highlighted all of those variations from the LGAP spreadsheet. Now, if council adopts this, then those yellow colours will go out and they will be injected into our base data. Right? Yes. So the yellow is just there to highlight something special that has been added to the LGAP spreadsheet.
So
that's the idea. Yeah.
It's bespoke for our specific council.
Yes.
Understood. Yeah, and I just note the attached delegation tables go from pages 104 through to 144. Any further questions then or discussion related to this? Somebody like to move the recommendations on page 103? Deputy Mayor has moved, over seconder. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to the back, page 145, closed council. Would somebody like to move that we are now adjourned to closed council to consider those matters? Councillor Cook has moved. Councillor Bowden has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Ordinary meeting is adjourned. I thank the public for attending. We'll take a quick break and then resume.